Kalkadosh Boker Or Masechet Batra Daf Amud Aleph 31a1. We are by the two dots where the two dots says Ze Omer Shel Avotai, Ze Omer Shel Avotai. Imagine right now, right? You have a karka, right? And two people are coming and say they both own it. You say, but how could you both own the karka? So no, this is my father's and this is my father's. So one of them brought witnesses that Be'emet it belonged to the father, and another person brought witnesses that he was there for 3 years. So Amar Rabba comes and he says, Malo l'shaker. What does he have? What does he gain from lying? What does that mean? Meaning the one that has the chazakah, what does he gain from lying by saying that it was from his father? He says, he could have just said, that I came and I bought it from you. Which means the entire concept of Mali Lishakir is like, by the way, Mali Lishakir is like amigu. What does it mean, amigu? It's that since he could have given a better ta'ana, a better claim, believe him now when he's going to say a worse claim. So that's what he's saying over here. He says he could have just said, I bought it from you and I have a chazakah, because he has witnesses that he has a chazakah. So why did he say that really by man it was from his father? And then he brings witnesses that he had a chazakah. He could have just said, I bought it from you. Elmaleh Abaye says, no. Mali leshaker bimkom edim lo amnina. You don't say migu, right? Bimkom edim. What does that mean? Here you have witnesses, and the witnesses is that belong to the father. So therefore, since you have the witnesses, and these two witnesses are going against you, that you didn't basically buy it from him, so you don't have a ta'ana, you don't have a claim. Why should he have lied? He could have said something better. No, fine. So Rabba comes and he agrees to buy it. And he says, okay, so the one that says, what are you doing in my field? He has all the rights. And therefore, the one that was machzik until now, it doesn't have anything. Hadar Amarle, but then he comes and he says, in, yes. In, yes. Davatachi. It does belong to your father. Uzvanti minayu, but I bought it from your father. So why did I say that it belongs to my father? Because I'm samech batuach b'zeh, as if it was my father. Meaning, me really, it wasn't my father's. But the fact that you come, but I bought it from you, and it's keilu, it's like my father's. Because they went and I bought it from you. So that's what he's saying. So says the Gemara, toen vechozer vetoen, or en toen vechozer vetoen. Can you make a new claim? Meaning, you claimed at the beginning it belonged to your father. Afterwards, you came and you didn't bring witnesses about your father. You brought witnesses of a chazakah. The other guy brought witnesses of his father. So now the question is, now he said, no, for sure it was your father's and it was yours, but I bought it from you and then I have a chazakah. And why did I say it's like my father's? But it's my father, because I was there for 3 years and I was so certain that I bought it. It's like my father's. So says the Gemara, can you retract and make a new claim, or can you not retract and make a new claim? That's the question. So machloket, ula, Ula says, you can do that. And Nardai says, you cannot do that. Yeah, Ula, but Ula admits that even though Ula just said, but he said, what happens if he said it's my father's and it's not your father's? Meaning he didn't just say on about himself. He completely went against the other guy's claim and he said it's not your father's. There for sure you can't retract, because when you came and you said it's not your father's, and then the guy brought a proof that it is his father's, so then that's it. You can't do anything anymore, right? And in a case where they're already in a bedin, he didn't say any ta'ana. He came outside the ta'an, and then he comes back and he's to'en, he cannot retract. Why? My tama tanate agmere. They taught him that. Meaning, because you have to remember, by the way, in a real bedin, they don't even want a to'en. You know what a to'en is? A to'en is like a type of a Jewish lawyer, right? They don't want that. And the reason why is because the three dayanim want to see the two litigants, right? The defendant and the accuser, whatever you want to call them exactly, without anybody. Because they want to know the truth. They don't want to know how to outsmart the other one, or no, but if this happened and if that happened, one second. I just want to know the truth. But even if they want to, they could tell you what's the case, and they start asking them. But the second that they're going to come outside of betting, and then they come back and all of a sudden they start coming and telling you those things, you're like, one second. He probably went to someone, called someone up very quickly. What do I say? What do I do? And then they taught it to him. But not that really meant that that's what happened. In a sense, so because of that, even Ula admits. So one more time, so Ula admits in a case that he says avotai velo shel avotecha, that it doesn't help. Or if he was in Bedin, he didn't say anything, and then he comes out, and then he comes back in, and he wants to say it. No, it doesn't help. Now, Nahardae said, you cannot retract. Now, he's going to admit also in a certain case. If he told him, what if he said, it was my father that they bought it from your father? Meaning, it was your father's, but it was also my father's. And my father's bought it from your father's, right? He's allowed to. Why? Because there, it's actually both of them are actually true. And if he was speaking things outside, right, and he didn't say any tana, then he came into the bedin and he was toen, here you could. Why? He says, my tama, there are a lot of people that they don't want to show you the cards. They don't want to show you the cards until they're in bedin. So outside of bedin, you come and you say, hey, what are you doing? No. He doesn't say anything. And you're like, okay, the guy doesn't have anything. All of a sudden he comes to bedin and you're like, hey, what? Yeah. It's good. Why? He purposely didn't want to show you his cards. So that way you could come into bedin and boom, here it is. Exactly. He doesn't have to do that. Yeah? Amara Meimar says a Meimar. Ana Narda, I'm from Narda. Usvirali, and I hold the Toen vechozer vetoen, that you can be Toen vechozer vetoen. And that is the halacha of Toen vechozer vetoen. You could retract and you could actually give another Tana. You can do that. Okay? Fine. Next.
From outside the bedin to inside the bedin.
No. Even within the bedin. Within the bedin, no, the opposite. If you go outside and then you come back in, you're not believed. And that was the shita of Ula. Because Ula was from Nerda. Okay? Fine. Amar of Nachman. What happens if both of them say it belongs to my father? What happens now if they both, one of them brings witnesses that it was his father's and he ate chazakah, and the other one brought witnesses only that he had chazakah, but not that it's his father's? What happens now? So one more time, two people, same tana, belongs to their fathers. One brings witnesses that it's his father's plus chazakah, and the other one brings witnesses only chazakah. So says, Amaleh Rava, Hayadut Muchesheti. He says, one second. Forget about what's going on. This is a stira. It's a contradiction. How do we do this? It's 100% a contradiction. Why? He says, because you have two witnesses against two witnesses that they both had chazakah. How do they both have chazakah on the same field? So you have to cancel them out. Like something's wrong here. So Amaleh says, you're right. There's hachasha, there's contradiction in who's eating. Right? Lamed Aleph Amud Bet 31b. But he says, but to do with the fathers, is there any meaning? Okay, you're right. They both have chazakah in the same 3 years. Doesn't make sense. There's something. There's monkey business going around in his head. But whoever said anything about that, it belongs to the father. Here, this guy has witnesses that it belongs to his father as well. So says the Gemara, Lima Rav Rav Nachman. I'm going to say that Rav and Rav Nachman, the Plukta, the Rav Huna of the Rav Chasta, are arguing the machlok between Rav Huna and Rav Chasta. They itmar because it was stated. Shte kite edim hamachishot zo et zo. When you have two witnesses which are machishot each other, so two witnesses, two groups of witnesses that they're arguing against each other. Amar Ravuna, says Ravuna, Zuba bifnei atzma meidav. Each one could come separately and they could testify. Yeah, and then that's it. So says the Gemara, but 1 second. Rav Chasta says, why are you even going to pay attention to them? Which means like this, doctor, you said the one that has more is better. That's only if they're two separate groups of witnesses, meaning two on the chazakah and two on the father, right? That the father's owned it. But if it's the same two, and these same two are arguing against these two, says Rav Chasta, somebody's lying. It's true. I don't know which group of the two. So why would I even take them into a consideration on that it belongs to the father? If I say that they're liars on the chazakah, then obviously they're liars on the father as well. So therefore, how do I even take anything into consideration? That's the shita of Rav Chasta. So Rav Chasta says, there's a do check it here. You're right. I don't know who's checking. But I know that for sure there's two of them which are checking. It could be these two. I don't know. So I'm going to disregard them on everything. But according to Rav Huna, no. These ones give one witness, and then these ones give one witnesses, and then that's it. So Lema Rav Nachman, why don't I just say that Rav Nachman is going like Rav Huna, and Rava is going like Rav Chasta? Because if you remember, it was already the machloket right between Rava, because Rava said is that edut mucheshet, it's one against the other one, and Rav Huna, Rav Nachman says no, the Hechal was only in the eating, not in the father. So why don't we just say that the machloket between Rava and Rav Nachman is a machloket between Rav Huna and Rav Chasta? Says the Gemara, no. Aliba de Rav Chasta kula amalo plige. According to Rav Chasta, nobody argues, which means you're right. According to Rav Chasta, there's nothing what to talk about. For sure, there's no machlok Rav and Nachman. Everybody's modeh that it's edu mucheshet, also for the fathers, meaning to do with the edut on the fatherhood, that the father belonged, the field belonged to the father, and therefore it's wallow. It's nothing. Ki plige, when is a machloket? According to Rav Huna. Rav Nachman is like Rav Huna, obviously, because that's a pashtut, that basically their testimonies are not connected, which means that you're right, to do with the eating of the chazakah, it's a chasha, it's a contradiction, so you cancel them out, but to do with the two edim that they're saying about the father, even though they're the same witnesses on the chazakah, it doesn't matter, it's still okay. And Rava says, when did Rav Huna say such a thing? Ela le'edut acheret, only to do with another edut. Aval le'ota edut, but if it has to do with the same testimony, lo. So he wants to say that even in, meaning again, according to the Chasta, it's there's nothing what to talk about. So pasul, you're right. Edu mucheshet, everything cancels out. There's no witnesses here. There's nothing. That's according to Rav Chasta. But according to Rav Huna, we have a machloke between Rav Nachman and Rava. Rav Nachman is kipshuto like Rav Huna. Yeah, separate the testimonies. But according to Rava, he says, no, when can you say separate the testimonies? When they're different testimonies. But if it's on the exact same case, which that's here, it's the exact same case, you don't separate the testimony. Fine. What happens now? What happens now if the guy that lost, he also brings witnesses that belong to his father? So now you have that they're both equal. Meaning like this, like what we said before. Two people come in, what do you go? It's my father's, right? And it's my father's. This one brings chazakah, that he has a chazakah of the eating of the fruits plus the father. This one only chazakah. We said, according to Rav Huna, right, and according to Rav Nachman only, right, we're going to give it to who? To the one that has both. Because like the doctor said, you have more proofs. What happens now if the other guy comes back and he also brings two witnesses that belong to his father? So I'm Rav Nachman, so after. But now they're equal because you have two on everything. So Rav Nachman says, Rav Nachman, anan achtine, anan maskinele. I in the bedin, I went and I took it out. I would bring it up. Why? Because basically, I would now come and say, 1 second, since I would take the guy out again. At the beginning, the reason why I gave it to the litigant number one was because he had more proofs. But now that the other guy brought as much proofs, why am I going to give it to him? Yeah, so he says, I'm not going to suspect for ziluta de bedin. Meaning, maybe I would say that it's a disgrace for the bedin. Because the bedin just gave a psak, and now 5 minutes later they're retracting, meaning the court is retracting on their psak. But he says we don't suspect for these things. Why? Because bedin is supposed to do things truthfully, and therefore, listen, there's no evidence. It happens all the time, right? In the due course of new evidence, all of a sudden it happens. By the way, even the goyim do that. You understand? And why? Because there's no evidence which was uncovered, or no evidence which was discovered, or brought, or whatever, or found. Yeah, you're going to bring somebody in, and that's it. You have somebody, no evidence. So, Mativ Rava Veitem Rabbi Zira, fine. But ask Rava, and some people say it's Rabbi Zira that asks, what happens if you have two people that come in and say that a person died, and therefore his wife is allowed to get married to somebody else? And two people come and they say that he didn't die. Two people say that she got divorced. Two people say that she didn't get divorced. How does it say? Obviously, she shouldn't get married. Right? However, though, if she does get married, even he said, she doesn't have to get divorced. She does have to go out from the second husband. When do I say she has to go out? He said only if Wedim came and then she got married. But if she got married and only afterwards two Edim come, which means like this. Basically like this. One more time. When two witnesses come and they say that a guy dies, that's already enough to permit the woman, because obviously be guna, right? We don't want her to be a guna for the rest of her life. So every you come and say, you're allowed to get married. Now, what happens if there's conflicting evidence? Two witnesses come and say he died. Two witnesses come and say he didn't die. So therefore, two and two. It's 2 and 2. 2 and 2. So what happens? She shouldn't get married. Why? Conflicting evidence. Cancel them out. There's nothing. But what happens if she does get married? So the first shita says she doesn't get divorced. Lo tetzeh. He says, no. Tetzeh. She does get divorced from the second husband. But says Rabbi Menachem, you say, when do I say this? Only if the conflicting evidence came before she went in and she got married. Which means that before she got married, she already knew that there was conflicting evidence, so she shouldn't have gotten married. But what happens if two witnesses come and he say he dies? And then she went and she got married. And then the two witnesses come. You're going to say, listen, Ribono Shel Olam, she only did good. It wasn't that, how's she going to know that later on two witnesses are going to come? What? The children will not be mom. Okay, it all depends, Ben. Because if the husband does come back alive, the children are mamzerim. Even if she had a heter. If he does come back alive. If you stay with a din, the children are mamzerim, according to the shita. Yes. Tetzeh mizeh mizeh, and then you have all the isurim there. From both of them, and she loses the ketubah, she loses the blaot, she loses the parnasah, she loses everything. Well, but she's prohibited to everybody. She's prohibited to both husbands. Yeah, she could have another one, but she lost both husbands. She lost both ketubot. She lost both. She lost everything. She loses everything. The fact that it's a leniency that she should have come and she looked better into it. That's the concept. So he comes and he says, Elmaleh, he says, Ana Savri, I hold lemevad uvda, right? Which means Rav Nachman comes and he tells Rava, I would have thought to say, Hashta deotfinan at, veotvan Rav Amnuna besudia lo avdinan ba'uvda. Which means I would have thought to say to do a maaseh, to bring it back. Why? We're not going to be choshesh for the kavod of the bedin, right? But now that you asked me from a bright time, you asked from Rav Amnuna besudia, now I'm not going to retract. Which means I would have come and said, we don't suspect for the zilut of bedin, for the disgrace of bedin. But now that you came and you brought me a bright time, Rav Amnuna besudia, he says, you know what? Okay, fine. We're not going to retract. So nafakav of the uvda, Rav Nachman went and he wanted to do, and he exiled a din. Somebody thought that it was a mistake, right? Velohi, but it's not. Because this halacha is talui in big rabbis, and therefore, since it's big rabbis, which means he found big chachamim like his first shita, and therefore you retracted. Which means that, one more time, Rav Nachman always held that you could retract the psak of a bedin, the verdict. Why? It was in light of new evidence, right? It shed light, there was new evidence, new this, new that. You're allowed to do that. Afterwards, Rava came and he asked on him. So he said to Rava, you know what? You asked me a question, you asked a braita, I'm not going to do it. But then he did do it. So somebody thought he made a mistake. He said, no. He really did see that there were people that said exactly like him. And since there were big rabbis that said exactly like him, so he said, this is the way that I'm going to psak, and there's no problem whatsoever. The Tanam, we learned in our Mishnah. What does the Mishnah say? Rabbi Yehuda says, we never bring somebody up to a kohen, right? He says over here, one ed is not believed on a chazakah to make a person to become a kohen, to do nesiat kapayim, to do the service in the Bet HaMikdash, or to eat truma. Rabbi Elazar says to Elazar, when do I say that we're not going to bring somebody up to kohen al pi echad? Only if somebody's like claiming against him. Meaning, if somebody's saying maybe he's not a Kohen, so you have one witness, I don't do anything. But if nobody's going against it, even one witness is already enough. It says the name of Shimon No, you are allowed to come and you bring up a person to a Kunal Piedechad. Yes, right? Rashbag, I know Rabbi Elazar. So it comes out that Shimon Gamliel is Mamash like Rabbi Elazar. What's the difference between them then? Why? Because when there's Orerim, which means somebody going against it, one ed is not believed. And if you're going to tell me the difference is only one witness between them. Rabbi Elazar comes and he says chad. If it's only going to be one of them, and Rashbag says that it's only going to be trei. Rabbi Yochanan says you need minimum of two witnesses for an irud. An irud is like some claim against it that you always. One more time. Two people come to Bedin and say this guy's not a Kohen, by the way. He just came moved into town, he's not a Kohen. Those are Edin which are an Irur. It has to be minimum two. So you cannot say it's one against one. It has to be minimum two. So then what do you mean then that it's a machlo? No, you could still do it up What's going on then? Yeah, obviously. So that's what we're going to speak about tomorrow.